Hello, beloved. Continuing our series, today we shall go into the knowing of the fruit that we had went into. We shall go into the vineyard later, but we shall go into the fruit for right now. And I will make you known the meaning of the fruit. Isaiah chapter 37, verse 30 reads, "And this shall be a sign unto thee, that ye shall eat this year such that groweth of itself, and the second year that which springeth of the same, and in the third year sow ye, and reap, and plant vineyards, and eat the fruit thereof." Today we shall go into the fig tree, the fig fruit, and I will make it known of you the fig tree, and why the Lord said the fig tree and his plan thereof. From here we will go to St. Matthew chapter 24, and read the words of the Lord. Matthew 24:29 reads, "Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light," which we have seen, "and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken," which we are also seeing right now. "And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds," and we went over that in the last video, "from one end of heaven to the other. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender, and putteth forth leaves, you know that summer is nigh. So likewise ye, when ye shall see these things, know that it is near, even at the door. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till these things be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying, and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark. And they knew not until the flood came, and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Then shall two be in the field, one shall be taken, and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, One shall be taken, and the other left. Watch therefore, ye know not what hour your Lord doth come. But know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be you also ready, for in such an hour as ye think not, the Son of Man cometh. So we read here, beloved, about a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, you know that summer is nigh. So likewise, ye, when ye shall see these things, know that it is near, even at the door. So we read about the fig tree. That came out of the mouth of Jesus Christ. Now, let us go to Revelation chapter 6, verse 13. Verse 13. And the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, which is happening now, even as a fig tree casts her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind, and the heavens departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, every mountain and island removed out of their place, and the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man hid themselves in dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and to the rocks, fall on us, hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? And those are the two parables of the fig. One is a fig whose branch is yet tender, and it putteth forth leaves. So it's a tender fig tree, a tender figs, and putteth forth leaves. And the second, even as a fig tree casts her untimely figs in Revelation 6. So untimely figs. So we've got two figs here. We've got a tender fig, and we've got an untimely fig. Now we shall go to the understanding thereof in succession of our previous reading. We now go to Jeremiah chapter 24. Jeremiah chapter 24. And we will read until Jeremiah chapter 26. The Lord, Jeremiah chapter 24. Sign of the good and evil figs. The Lord showed me, and behold, 2 baskets of figs were set before the temple of the Lord. After that, Nebuchadrezzar, king of Babylon, had carried away captive Jeconiah, the son of Joachim, king of Judah, and the prince of Judah, with the carpenters and the smiths from Jerusalem, and had brought them to Babylon. 1 basket had very good figs, even like the figs that are first ripe, branches yet tender. It doesn't say that, but it says even like the figs that are first ripe. And the other basket had very naughty figs, which could not be eaten. They were so bad. Then the Lord said unto me, What seest thou, Jeremiah? And I said, Figs. The good figs, very good. And the evil, very evil, that cannot be eaten. They are so evil. Again, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, lay these good figs, so will I acknowledge them that are carried away captive of Judah, whom I have sent out of this place into the land of the Chaldeans for their good. For I will set mine eyes upon them for good, and I will bring them again to this land, and I will build them, and not pull them down, and I will plant them and not pluck them up, and I will give them a heart to know me, that I am the Lord. And they shall be my people, and I will be their God. For they shall return unto me with their whole heart. And as the evil figs, which cannot be eaten, they are so evil. Surely thus saith the Lord, so I will give Zedekiah, the king of Judah, and his princes, and the residue of Jerusalem that remain in the land, and them that dwell in the land of Egypt. And I will deliver them to be removed unto all the kingdoms of the earth for their hurt, to be a reproach and a proverb, and taught and cursed in all places whither I shall drive them. And I will send a sword, the famine, and the pestilence among them, till they have consumed from off their land, and I will give them and to their fathers. And I will give unto them and to their fathers. Chapter 25, Judah's captivity, Babylon's end. Judah's captivity, Babylon's end. The word that came from Jeremiah concerning all the people of Judah in the 4th year of Joachim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah. That was the first year of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, the which Jeremiah the prophet spake unto all the people of Judah and unto the inhabitants of Jerusalem, saying, From the 13th year of Josiah the son of Ammon, king of Judah, even unto this day, that is the 23rd year, the word of the Lord hath come unto me, and I have spoken unto you, rising early and speaking, but you have not hearkened. And the Lord has sent unto you all his servants, the prophets, rising up early, sending them, but you have not hearkened, nor inclined your ear to hear. They said, Turn ye again now, every one from his evil ways, and from the evil of your doings, and dwell in the land that the Lord has given unto you and to your fathers forever and ever. And go not after other gods to serve them and to worship them, and provoke me not to anger with the works of your hands, and I will do you no hurt. Yet you have not hearkened unto me, saith the Lord, that you might provoke me to anger with your works of your hands, to your own hurt. Therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, because you have not heard my words, behold, I will send and take all the families of the north, saith the Lord, and Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant, and I will bring them again this land and against the inhabitants thereof, and against all the nations round about. And I will utterly destroy them, and make them an astonishment and a hissing, and perpetual desolations. Moreover, I will take from them the voice of mirth and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, the sound of the millstone and the light of the candle. And this whole land shall be a desolation and an astonishment, and these nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years. And it shall come to pass, when 70 years are accomplished, that I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation, saith the Lord, for their iniquity, and the land of the Chaldeans, and I will make a perpetual desolations, and I will bring upon that land all my words which I have pronounced against it, even all that is written in this book, which Jeremiah hath prophesied against all the nations. For many nations and great kings shall serve themselves of them also, and I will recompense them according to their deeds and according to the works of their hands. For thus saith the Lord God of Israel unto me, take the wine cup of this fury at my hand, and cause all nations to whom I send thee to drink it. And they shall drink and be moved and be mad because of the sword that I will send among them. Then took I the cup at the Lord's hand, and made all the nations to drink, unto whom the Lord had sent me, to wit, Jerusalem, and the cities of Judah, and the kings thereof, and the princes thereof, to make them a desolation, an astonishment, and a hissing, and a curse, as it is this day. Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and his servants, and his princes, and all his people, and all the mingled people, and all the kings of the land of Uz, and all the kings of the land of the Philistines, and Ashkelon, Azza, and Ekron, and the remnant of Ashdod, Edom, and Moab, and the children of Ammon, and the kings of Tyrus, and the kings of Zidon, and the kings of the isles which are beyond the sea, Dedan and Tema, Buz, and all that are in the utmost corners, and all the kings of Arabia, and all the kings of the mingled people that dwell in the desert, and all the kings of Zimri, and all the kings of Elam, and all the kings of the Medes, and all the kings of the north, far and near, one with another, and all the kingdoms of the world which are upon the face of the earth, and the king of Shishak shall drink after them. Therefore thou shalt say unto them, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, God of Israel, drink ye, and ye shall be drunk and spew, and fall and rise no more, because of the sword which I will send among you. And it shall be, if they refuse to take the cup at thine hand to drink, then shalt thou say unto them, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, you shall certainly drink. For lo, I will begin to bring evil on the city which is called by my name. As we see in this day, that the city is now called by his name. And should ye be utterly punished, you shall not be unpunished. For I will call for a sword upon all the inhabitants of the earth, saith the Lord of hosts. The vengeance of the Lord. Therefore prophesy thou against them. Verse 30. I'm sorry, Jeremiah 26, verse 30. Jeremiah 25, verse 30. We're still in Jeremiah 25. The name of this section is called the vengeance of the Lord. Therefore prophesy thou against them all these words, and say unto them, The Lord shall roar from on high, and utter his voice from his holy habitation. He shall mightily roar upon the inhabitant, upon his habitation. He shall give a shout as they that tread the grapes. Remember, we started off in Isaiah and it was talking about the fruits. And then I made known the two figs. And as we learned here in Jeremiah chapter 24, it was the good fig and the bad fig, the good fig and the evil fig. Now, in the vengeance of the Lord here in verse 30, the Lord is saying, let me read it again. Therefore, prophesy thou against them all these words, and say unto them, the Lord shall roar from on high, and utter the voice of his holy habitation. He shall mightily roar upon his habitation. He shall give a shout, and they shall tread the grapes against all the inhabitants of the earth. A noise shall come even to the ends of the earth, for the Lord hath a controversy with the nations. He will plead with all flesh. He will give them that are wicked to the sword, saith the Lord. So the Lord just said the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, behold, evil shall go forth from the nations, from nation to nation, and a great whirlwind shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth. So, just in case of you who had wondered about this occurrence that is occurring in the earth, the Lord has just made clear here in verse 32. Let me read it again because this is out of the mouth of the Lord. You had wondered and you had did videos thereof, wondering to yourself, but the Lord makes clear. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, behold, evil shall go forth from nation to nation, and a great whirlwind shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth. And now you know, evil shall go forth from nation to nation. So when you're seeing it, it's on your maps, and it's an evil that is coming from nation to nation. A great whirlwind shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth. So you're seeing it. You just heard the Lord of hosts open your eyes. He just opened your eyes and told you the truth of this occurrence that you had seen in your videos and people had reported about. And the Lord, he just told you what it was, and that it was happening, and it was coming from the evil shall go forth. He said the evil, which is the evil fig, or the untimely fig. And in those nations are those men also. And we read in the verse previous, the Lord has a controversy with all the flesh. That's why in Revelations it was named off, as I just read to you. Okay, verse 33. And moving on, because we're just only going to go here to chapter 26. And the slain of the earth shall be at that day from one end of the earth unto the other end of the earth. They shall not lament, neither be gathered nor buried. They shall be dung upon the ground. And the Lord made clear, this is 33, verse 30. And the Lord made clear to point out that at that day, he's not talking about this day, that he's talking directly to Jeremiah, even though in this day that he's talking to Jeremiah, he's already telling Jeremiah that the people of Israel will be held captive. But he's also talking about within the perpetual desolations that he has punishment for the evil nations. Perpetual. I'll read it again, verse 33. And the slain of the Lord shall be at that day, from one end of the earth unto the other end of the earth. They shall not be lamented, neither gathered nor buried. They shall be dung upon the earth. Howl, ye shepherds, and cry, and wallow yourselves in ashes, ye principal of a flock. For the days of your slaughter and of your dispersion are accomplished, and ye shall fall like a pleasant vessel. And the shepherds shall have no way to flee, nor the principal of the flocks to escape. A voice of the cry of the shepherds and a howling of the principal of the flocks shall be heard, for the Lord has spoiled their pasture. And of course, we're seeing that quite a bit with these so-called shepherds and so-called principals of the flock. And the peaceable habitation are cut down because of the fierce anger of the Lord. He hath forsaken his covert as the lion, for their land is desolate because of the fierceness of the oppressor, and because of his fierce anger. So he's made the land desolate because of the oppressor, and because of his and the Lord's fierce anger. So as we are in this day, we know who the oppressor is. And of course, this is for those of you who have foresight. Verse 38 also says, he has forsaken his covert as the lion. So for those of you who have foresight, you know that this is the Lord putting off the lion. You know who the lion is if you've read Daniel. Even as the lion had wings of eagle until the wings were plucked off from the lion. And the Lord has made a promise there. For the land is desolate because of the fierceness of the oppressor, and because of his fierce anger. So that's kind of a double thing right there. He doesn't call the wings that are plucked off the lion right there in Jeremiah. He just refers to them as the oppressor, but he does mention the lion. And then separately from the lion, he just calls them the oppressor. So, beloved, this was a lot of prophecy. And we're going to go into now we're going to go into Revelation to make known the final understanding from from um, from this. We're going to make known the final understanding from this. The last section we read was called "The Vengeance of the Lord." Uh, this is chapter 14 in the book of Revelation. And the name of this section of it is called "The Lamb on Mount Zion." And we were just talking about uh, Jeremiah 24 and 25 and a perpetual desolation upon Babylon, the the fruit that the Lord had ordained, and started off with the fruit that the Lord had ordained in Isaiah, and the timing at which he had ordained, and to make known the fruit. And then we went into Matthew 24, the good fig, and what the Lord was going to do with that. And I reminded you of a past video to where the Lord talks about the wind, and then shared with you the parable of the good fig. And then I showed to you Revelation chapter 6 and the untimely fig. And then we went into Jeremiah chapter 24 and chapter 25, where the Lord had set two figs before Jeremiah, the good fig and the evil fig. And the Lord talked to you about the good fig and his promise to the good fig. And then he went on to tell you about the evil fig, which was culminated with which was culminated with the vengeance of the Lord, the section of the chapter 25 called the vengeance of the Lord, which was a promise to the perpetual desolations of Babylon, and more importantly, all the inhabitants of the earth, which was also verified in a second witness because of Revelation chapter 6, made known that all the men, even the isles, it even promises the isles, which is also in Revelation chapter 6. But from now, we're going to go to Revelation chapter 14 to make known uh, also. And lo, I'm sorry, this is Revelation chapter 14, the Lamb on Mount Zion. And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. And I heard a voice from heaven, as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps, and they sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders. And no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. These are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb, whithersoever he goeth. These are they which these were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto God and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of God. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having an everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation, and kindred, and tongue, and people, saying with a loud voice, Fear God, and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven, and the earth, and the sea, and the fountains of waters. And there followed another angel, saying, Babylon is fallen, is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And a third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. And I heard the voice from heaven saying unto me, Write, Blessed are the dead which die in the Lord from henceforth, yea, the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, and their works do follow them. And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and upon the cloud one sat, unto like the Son of Man, having on his head a golden crown, and in his hand a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice unto him that sat on the cloud, Thrust in thy sickle, reap, for the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. And he that sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. And another angel came out of the temple which is in heaven, and he also having a sharp sickle. And another angel came out from the altar which had power over fire, and cried with a loud voice to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, Thrust in thy sickle, and gather the cluster of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. The angel thrust in his sickle into the earth, and gathered the vine of the earth, and cast it into the great winepress of the wrath of God. The winepress was trodden without the city, and blood came out of the winepress even into the horse bridle, the space of 1,600 furlongs. Okay, beloved, that's quite a bit of stuff, so let's go over this and find the word of the Lord. Let us search the scripture for the Lord's words. Let us search the scripture for the Lord's words. And let us have this word worketh within us. Let us have this word worketh within us. Yummy. Okay. Uh, Jeremiah chapter. Okay. Let's go back then. Let's go back. Let's put it all together. Isaiah chapter 20. I'm sorry. Isaiah chapter 36, verse 30. And this year shall be a sign unto thee. You shall eat this year, such as groweth of itself, and in the second year that which springeth of the same, and in the third year sow ye and reap, and plant vineyards, and eat the fruit thereof. The fruit thereof. Now, we went to the book of Matthew, and we read in verse 24, chapter 24, verse 32. Now learn you the parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender, and he putteth forth leaves, you know that summer is nigh. So likewise, when you shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the door. So there's a fig tree, the parable of the fig tree, and the fig tree that is whose branch is yet tender figs. Mm. But we also came over here to the book of Revelation, and we read out of the book of Revelation. Uh, uh, I'm sorry. Matthew 24. We didn't start there. We went to Matthew 24 earlier in Matthew 24, didn't we? Yes, we did. We cannot skip the word of the Lord. We just cannot. We must seek out the word. We started at Matthew 29. I'm sorry, and we read all the way until verse 30 and 3. So 29 through 30 and 3. And then we read about the good fig and what the Lord is going to do. He's going to gather his elect from the four winds, which we read in the previous video, from one end of heaven to the other. Now learn you a parable. So he put in the parable. But we also go, and now we're in Revelation 6, and we read about another fruit, even as a fig tree casts her untimely figs. And then we read further on about the untimely figs, even as the fig tree casts her untimely figs. And then we read about the untimely figs, and all the men labeled in that one. We also read about the islands that were even moved out of their places. Yes, and for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Now we're in Jeremiah chapter 25 verses. We're gonna skip. We read verse 20. We read verse 24 here, and the name of the 24th chapter is the sign of the good and evil figs. Show me, and the Lord showed me, and behold, 2 baskets of figs were set before the temple of the Lord. So you now know that this is good. It's sound biblical doctrine. That is sound biblical doctrine. And the Lord has made it known unto Jeremiah of these two fruits. And the Lord goes on, uh, uh, just then said in verse 3, then saith the Lord unto me, what seest thou, Jeremiah? And I said, the figs, the good fig, very good, and the evil, very evil, that canst be eaten. And the Lord makes a promise, and we read on uh, through chapter 25. Uh, I'm sorry, we're going. We read here in verse 24. I guess we can't go so fast, but we read here in verse 24 that the Lord gives His word to the good. Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, like these good figs, so I will acknowledge them that are carried away captive of Judah, whom I have sent out of this place and into the land of the Chaldeans for their good. I will set mine eyes upon them for good, and I will bring them again into this land, and I will build them, and I will not pull them down, and I will plant them and not pluck them up. So the Lord gives a promise for the good, but also He gives a promise to the evil. Behold, I'm sorry, verse chapter 25. He gives a promise to the evil. Behold, I will send, and I will take all the families to the north, and and I, and saith the Lord, and Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant, I will bring against this land, and I will bring against the inhabitants thereof, and against all the nations round about, and I will utterly destroy them, and make them an astonishment, and a hissing, and a perpetual desolation. So the Lord has promised a perpetual desolation. He goes on to say it again, and I will come to pass when 70 years are accomplished, that I will punish the king of Babylon and the nations say for their iniquities, and make it a perpetual desolation. And we're going to go over here to verse 30. The Lord continues on and says, prophesy against them these words, and said to them, the Lord shall roar from on high, utter his voices from his holy habitation, and shall mightily roar his habitation, and shall give a shout, and they shall tread the grapes against all the inhabitants of the earth. And the Lord even tells how, behold, evil shall go forth from nation to nation, and not only evil going forth from nation to nation, and a great whirlwind shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth. So we again, the Lord, He tells us from way upon then. If you even seen the video of nowadays, uh, you know that it's now happening. You know that the Lord has told us from on then that it's now. Uh, and the Lord makes a promise, and the slain of the Lord shall be at that day from one end of the earth to the other, neither be gathered nor buried, but they shall be like dung in the ground. And then down here, for those who have wisdom and understanding, in the final verse, verse 38, he hath forsaken his covert as a lion. So try and understand that he has forsaken his covert as a lion. So if you know the book of Daniel, he was covert as a lion at one point, and their land is desolate because of the fierceness of the oppressor. He no longer calls the wings that are plucked up off of the lion wings that are plucked up off the lion. He calls them, he in this in Jeremiah he says, because of the fierceness of the oppressor. He calls them the oppressor, and because of his fierce anger, the Lord's fierce anger, not the oppressor's fierce anger. And so from there, so we've read about two fruits. Uh, uh, so I just read about you about the lion, and he shall mightily. And we're going back to verse 30. And he shall mightily roar upon the inhabit his habitation from his roar upon his habitation. He shall give a shout, and they shall tread the grapes against all the inhabitants of the earth. But you know that it is not England anymore. You know that it's the Lord because He's given up His covert as the lion. So in verse 38, you know that that's the case. It's literally the Lord from Jerusalem.